So you guys hear me? Okay. Sorry, OBS is like acting weird. My internet's doing some fugliness. But alright. Alright, we're doing good. We're doing alright. Cool. Okay. How's it going, guys? Sorry I'm a day late here. I got like a really bad case of not a bad case. Like I've had like food poisoning before. This was like not. I mean, food poisoning is food poisoning. I was gonna say it's like not the worst case of food poisoning, but like it still sucks. Yeah, sorry, I just couldn't make it to the stream yesterday. Here we are, and light week kind of for me at least. I'm not sure about you guys if it was like a big week or not. But yeah, I saw some of y'all picked up some really cool comics from the post I had yesterday. Glad to see it was a pretty productive week for y'all. Let's see. Adam Quano says, hello, what's up? The streets are glad you're back. Hey, glad to be back in these streets. Glad to be back. Earth 1610 says, comics, yes, comics. Woo! We're back, baby! Back in a big way. And by big way, I mean just medium kind of way. It's average way. Slightly above average kind of way. But, yeah, we're back. We're back. Adam asked, have you ever seen the movie Birdman? If so, what did you think about it? And would you consider it a comic book superhero movie? I have seen Birdman. I absolutely loved it. I do not consider it a comic book movie. Birdman is more so like a movie about the superhero movie Hollywood like industrial machine. That's more so what Birdman is about. Because it's kind of just like riffing off of Michael Keaton's real life, like after Batman. So there's that. But yeah, no. I still really enjoy Birdman. I really like it. Probably my favorite Michael Keaton movie. Probably. Yeah, I'd say it's my favorite Michael Keaton movie. I really like Beetlejuice though. Like I really love Beetlejuice. I have a deep appreciation for that movie because I used to watch it with my mother a lot growing up. But yeah, no, I think Birdman like dethroned it. All right, Adam says y'all can hear me. Cool. And Tristan says, "What's up, Mister? Hey, what's up, Tristan? How you doing, bud?" The books that I got were Devil's Reign number 6, Strange number 2, Moon Knight number 10, X-Men Red number 1, and Iron Fist number 1. Nice picks, yeah. I'm checking out Moon Knight in trade. Moon Knight's a weird character to get into in comics because everything is like largely self-contained, from what I understand. Because the way in which my friends kind of talk about it, who like are deeper Moon Knight fans than I am, a lot of the old stuff, like the Bill Sienkiewicz stuff, and like Doug Monk and all those guys, all of that was like, it's all kind of building on top of each other, and it's that classic quintessential like Marvel, soap opera thing, By the way, 4 people are watching. How about we get 4 likes on this video? Let's try. I gotta be that insufferable YouTuber. I don't know. But yeah. Anyways, the way like Moon Knight comics used to work, as I'm told, is that the stories used to like kind of work in that quintessential Marvel, storytelling method, where like, you're just kind of watching the life of this guy and like the trials and tribulations of Mark Spector, and everything's kind of building on top of each other. But once you get to like Bendis and I think Maleev, because I think Alex Maleev did that book with him. At least the artwork makes it look like that. I don't know. But yeah, no, like from Bendis onwards, all of the Moon Knight books just kind of become self-contained. So like, that's kind of the vibe I get from reading the Bendis stuff, and then like the Lemire stuff. Bendis, Warren Ellis and Declan Shelvey, and Lemire and Smallwood, and Max Bemis, and I want to say Aaron Cooter, but I don't think that's right. You know, like all those other guys. And then like the current run, which I think is supposed to be like trying to tie all that stuff together. I don't know. It's just weird. Like reading Moon Knight's kind of weird. I still like it though. I still think it's a fun experience. It just kind of comes down to you have to read it like a DC comic book. Just when does this take place? I don't know. Shut up. Stop asking questions that aren't relevant. just take the story and move on. But yeah, no. I'm reading that Moon Knight book in trade. Tristan says, number 2 of Iron Fist. Okay. Yeah, I saw that came out this week. Earth 1610. Birdman, the Michael Keaton experience. That would have been a great subtitle too, and it totally would have fit. Adam Keano says, now here's my question about Birdman. What do you think of the ending and what happened in it? And do you think he really has powers? No, he doesn't have powers. I don't think he has powers. I think that's just him. Well, you know, I don't know. I just don't think about the ending of that movie. I just kind of... Because the film is like so normal up to that point. And I mean, there are definitely bits where you start to question. I can't remember the name of Michael Keaton's character, but he's basically Michael Keaton, so I'm just going to call him Michael Keaton. You're basically like questioning Michael Keaton's sanity and whether or not he's like schizophrenic. So it becomes like that unreliable narrator situation where I don't know if he's crazy or not. I don't know. So yeah, I just kind of the ending of Birdman's beautiful and amazing, and I don't understand it, and I love that I don't understand it. I just kind of go with it, just feel it. You know, it's a lot like those like Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman movies. Don't understand it, don't think about it, just feel it. You know, Batman just set that man on fire. Just feel it. How does it feel that Batman set that guy on fire? Isn't it cool? Yeah, just feel it. I don't know. Yeah, that's my read on Birdman. I just kind of go with it. Adam says, I highly recommend skipping the Bendis run on Moon Knight. Well, goddamn it, I already spent money on it, so... Oops. I don't know. I'll give it a shot just because I have it now, but you know, thanks for the warning. Let's see. Earth 1610. Houston's Moon Knight run. The Moon Knight returns. Does Moon Knight murder a bunch of people in that run and then lecture Catwoman about how murdering people's not cool? Just like in Batman Returns. Batman Returns is a weird movie. I don't know. One of these days I want to do like a retrospective on the Tim Burton, Joel Schumacher Batman movies, because this is gonna be like a real hot take. I like the Schumacher Batman movies more than the Burton Batman movies. Is that heresy? I feel like that's heresy, but I don't care. I genuinely enjoy those Schumacher Batman movies because at the very least they feel like Batman. Like, you know, you get into like Bruce Wayne's psychology. Robin is there. That's like a big deal, at least for me. You know, I feel like Batman and Robin, like Batman needs Robin. I think that's like a absolute like necessity if you're telling a Batman story. Like Robin has to be involved in that degree, or like to some degree. And I don't know, they feel like Bronze and Silver Age, like just kind of fun takes on Batman. I don't know. I like them. And the Burton movies are just like weird. What if Frank Castle was Batman? But we also like didn't comment on like how him killing people is like kind of terrible. I don't know, weird. Also, those movies just don't make sense, and it's bizarre. Again, just don't think about it. Just feel it. Just feel it. You know. Yeah. Reading the Sam Hamm script for Batman '89, like the original, like I think it's like not the original, like the second draft for Batman '89. And like going back and rewatching the Tim Burton Batman movie, it's not yeah. I kind of regret reading the second draft because it makes a lot more sense and actually feels like a Batman movie. But oh well. Here we are. Speaking of which, I think the conclusion to the Batman '89 comic comes out I think next week, which I'm actually excited for because I'm liking that series a lot more than most people are. Mainly because a lot of the complaints I've seen for the Batman '89 comic are that this is telling a story and it has the aesthetic of Burton's Batman films down, but like not the narrative structure. And my retort is that like, oh, so it actually has a narrative structure and like actually has characters that, you know, affect the story, like are proactive, and I don't know, just I like the '89 comic. It feels like what I think Sam Hamm wanted to do with Batman in the films. So I appreciate it for that. Adam says, however, anyone's experience can be different. I read the Flash run where Bart's the Flash, and I liked Bart's characterization, but the pacing was so fast and was a mess. But I had fun until inertia. Yeah, I definitely feel that too. It's just my big issue with the Bart Allen Flash run and tenure is that it's such a great status quo that went to waste really fast. Which I guess is fitting because he was the Flash, but you know, a lot of it felt like just putting it in its time and place. I really think that the editors at DC were looking at Ultimate Spider-Man and like how successful that comic was, and they tried to Ultimate Spider-Man up the Flash, and that's kind of what broke it, you know. And then their resolution for the book not doing well was, screw it, let's just kill him. Very unnecessary. I'm glad they got, like, you know, undid, you know, but still. I think the Bart Allen Flash tenure should have had more time to breathe. But I also think I think you can say the same thing for a lot of DC legacy characters. Because with the exception of Wally West, I can't think of one like legacy hero who's picked up the mantle for, you know, for like one of the like foundational DC heroes in the Pantheon, and like actually kind of had a tenure. Like Wally is one, and Dick was Batman for like what, 3 years, and then he gets demoted back to being Nightwing. Donna Troy was Wonder Woman for 1 year. During that whole 1 year later stint. Connor Kent never got to be Superman properly, and that's unfortunate. In fact, I think if anyone's gonna take up the mantle of Superman, it definitely should have been Connor, especially now that he's back in continuity. Yeah, wow. Wally's really the only one who got to like grow up. Isn't that something? Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Just a huge missed opportunity. But yeah, let's see. Supreme Omega. Hey, what's up, Supreme? How you doing? Hey, Mystical Green Beanie. Hope you are well. I'm doing well now. Thanks. Question. How come you dislike the Burton Batman films? Even Batman Returns? I get why you dislike the first one because Burton had less control, but Returns had Burton's full creative control. Well, it's not... Okay. You know me, I'm all for creators expressing their artistic creative vision, especially for film. And especially for films that are adaptations of comics. Okay. Again, this might be heresy. I'm totally fine. Or at the very least, I've gotten to a place now where I'm totally fine with a director or like a producer or a committee who are like working on a film, or like a comic book film in particular, and they're just like, you know what? Let's just take the broad strokes of this character and just do our own thing, because it's a movie. It's not a comic book. You're taking this character who's existed for like God knows how long and like moving them into like a completely different medium. And when it comes to like a narrative within like an ongoing kind of like universe or world or setting, you have to like kind of take those characters and like adapt them to that, which is why I do drastically disagree with myself with my my like Iron Boy Jr. video with like Spider-Man Far From Home. I still don't identify Tom Holland's Spider-Man as like the Peter Parker from the comics, and I don't think he'll ever be that, but like I'm also fine with that because he's not Peter Parker of the comics. He's Peter Parker of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which is a universe over there. And just to bring this all back to the Burton Batman films, I appreciate them. I appreciate that Tim Burton was able to like get his artistic vision for what he believes Batman is and should be out there. I'm glad he got to tell his stories. It's not that it's not Batman. To me, that's the problem. The problem is that on top of it not feeling like Batman, I just don't think the narratives make sense. Like, that's my problem with it. Like, I feel like if you make an adaptation and you like make a bunch of changes, okay, fine, sure, whatever. Like, for example, Netflix Punisher. They basically just make Frank Castle Jason Bourne. But the narrative justifies just reskinning Jason Bourne as Frank Castle or vice versa. The narrative justifies it. The Tim Burton Batman film never justifies any of the weird changes it makes, and just also as a stories, they don't make sense. These movies just don't make sense. It's just weird fever dreams that like Tim Burton is kind of trying to communicate to like normal people. And we're like, no man, this is weird. So yeah, that's why I'm just not a big fan of the Burton Batman films. But I do love their aesthetic, you know. If anything, I think the aesthetic for Burton's Batman is exactly what I want from Batman. Like, that's it. You got it. That's the aesthetic I want for Batman. And I think it's perfect for that. Yeah. I hope that answers your question, Supreme. Adam says, that's not heresy. Val Kilmer was my favorite Batman until Pattinson. You can throw virtual stones at me for that. Don't worry, all my virtual stones are going to be held back because I agree with you. Well, I don't know. Val Kilmer is still my favorite Batman because he's, to this day, the only one that feels like comic book Batman to me. Ben Affleck gets very, very close. I don't feel like I lived with Ben Affleck's Batman on his own as just Batman for a long enough period of time to like accurately judge his, you know, his take. But no, again, to this day, Val Kilmer just, that's Batman to me. That's Batman. That is like quintessential, like Neil Adams, like Denny O'Neil era Batman. Like okay, you guys have seen Batman Forever, right? Okay, like that whole scene where Bruce is coming out of his like mental fog, after like Two-Face like hits him in the face with like a hammer and he falls down the steps, and the Riddler left him that clue, and he's trying to like piece the clue back together. He's trying to piece the clue together as he's like piecing himself back together, because Bruce himself was like on the verge of a mental collapse. So yeah, that whole scene where he's like doing a back and forth with Alfred about like the riddle, that was just Batman to me. I love that. I love that so much. And I also love the scene where him and Dick are arguing in the Batcave after Dick saves him from the rubble that Two-Face left him in. Just, it's Batman. I don't know what else to say besides like, it's Batman. You know, that's how I feel whenever I'm watching Batman Forever. I feel like that one dude at the beginning of Batman Forever who like looks up and points and just kind of screeches, "It's Batman!" That's how I feel about Val Kilmer. He's Batman. It's Batman. Val Kilmer's my favorite Batman. Ben Affleck gets very close. I appreciate Robert Pattinson's Batman. I think, you know, I get why people see him as their favorite. I also really like Christian Bale. He definitely feels like a more kind of like Jeff Loeb. I was gonna start some fire there. I'm not gonna drop napalm, but he feels like what I think Jeff Loeb was going for in Long Halloween, but stretched out to like a 3-movie arc. So I really like Christian Bale's Batman for that. But no, just Val Kilmer. He feels like a straight up comic book Batman to me. I'm with it. Like just practically, if you just made Batman Brave and the Bold live action, that's what Batman Forever is, and I'm so down for it. Earth 1610. Remember the Sam Hamm Batman movie scripts? I do. I talked about them earlier. I think you're referencing those. Yeah, no. I haven't read the one for Batman Returns. Although I've heard that one's really good. And finds a really interesting way to like incorporate Robin, as well as Vicky Vale. But the only one I've read is the second draft for Batman 89, which takes place in 1988 or no 87. And I love the way that Sam Hamm describes Gotham City. Yeah, just everything in that script, it feels not like the movie Tim Burton made. Like, the same beats are hit, but it's just not the same movie. Like, the best way I can kind of describe it is that Sam Hamm in 1986 or 87 or whatever basically wrote the Batman. You know, like the Matt Reeves Batman movie. He wrote that in 1987. Or kind of. Bruce Wayne's arc feels very much like he goes from being Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne to being Christian Bale's Bruce Wayne. It's very weird and very interesting. But yeah, no, I really like that second draft a lot. It had problems, you know, it's not perfect, for what I remember, but still, it feels more complete and whole, and more like a Batman story than what we ultimately ended up with. But I am going to try to find that Batman Returns script, because I've heard that's really good. And also that's like one of the first uses of mob boss Penguin, like pre-comics too, which I think is interesting. So yeah, I gotta check that out at some point. Adam says, my mind was shocked in Batman Returns with Penguin strapped to missiles, Christopher Walken dying by getting killed by Catwoman, and Penguin biting off someone's nose. Yeah, it's weird. Those are all things I loved growing up, which is a weird thing to say out loud and explains a lot about me as a person. But I don't know. I just don't think the moments justify the story that Batman Returns kind of doesn't have. But that's just my takeaway. That's just my read. Everyone's gonna have a different take on things. That's just kind of like the perfect, beautiful nature of like art and film and storytelling. And it's something that I'm like appreciating more as I get older, and try to like work on my own art and stuff like that. Amar Pinder, what's up, Amar? How you doing, bud? Amar says, do you think a 13-year-old Robin would work on film? Hell yeah, I think a 9-year-old Robin would work on film. How old was Chloe Grace Moretz in Kick-Ass? No, I totally think you can do a young Robin on film. The problem with Robin and Batman is that you are really kind of throwing Bruce Wayne under the bus and putting a child Robin, like a child Robin, on film, because it makes Bruce look insanely irresponsible and like a terrible person. But I think you can I think you can do like a really interesting like narrative justification for it. Like, I love that, like, one scene in Young Justice where the Justice League is, like, chastising Bruce for, indoctrinating Robin into crime fighting when he was 8. And Wonder Woman kind of goes on this spiel about how she's grooming Bruce to be him. And Bruce just kind of has this, like... and Bruce Greenwood delivers such a great performance. I love Bruce Greenwood's Batman. He might be my favorite Batman voice actor, but Bruce Greenwood, Bruce Wayne, talking to Diana, says with this like very somber response, "I brought him into crime fighting so that he wouldn't turn out like me." That's why That's why Batman has Robins. That's why Bruce gets these children who are like in very vulnerable places emotionally, psychologically and spiritually, and he puts them in like these vibrant, human target full body condoms with like the glittery showgirl's cape, and has them jump in the line of fire of like machine guns from like international arms dealers and human traffickers, because he wants them to exorcise those demons that Bruce never did, or like had the opportunity to as a child. So I think that's the justification you have for, Robin. And I think it works very well for live action. Especially if you also play up that Bruce Wayne is also not all there. But you gotta call that out. You have to call that out. You can't, it's gonna be hard to, you can't glorify it. You have to at least address, okay, Bruce, you're kind of not all there, man. But no, I think you can totally do like a 13-year-old Robin on film. And I hope maybe we see that with the Batman, under the Matt Reeves tenure. I think that would be really interesting. Supreme Omega says, on Spidey's 60th, it's sad that for the past 30 years, Spidey has had more bad stories than good. More than any other hero equals Robot Parents, Clone Saga, Byrne reboots, Sins Past, One More Day, Slot's second half, Kindred. Yeah. It is unfortunate, but I mean, same goes for other characters like Green Arrow. Green Arrow's been around for 80 years. What's he got to say for it? He doesn't even have a book right now. Luke Cage's 50th anniversary just came up, and no book, no real great series since when? Like the 80s? When he had that like red shirt with the leather jacket, that was a cool series, but like outside of that, anything for Luke Cage? No. I think it's really sad that like Spider-Man being Spider-Man is just kind of not, I don't know. It does kind of feel like Marvel's not kind of like living up to expectation in terms of like storytelling quality for the character, but I think a lot of these characters have the same problem. It's not just Spider-Man. Yeah. And I've talked about this before, in my video about like retcons and reboots. I think a big problem with Spider-Man in particular is that for the past like 20 years, it feels like every Spider-Man creative team is just kind of coming onto the book, or the books, much rather, and doing their best to fix Spider-Man. It's always, how can I improve upon what the previous creative team broke? I think that's the big problem that Spider-Man has in comics. And I hope that's a trend that just kind of ends soon. Just tell Spider-Man stories. I don't care about trying to fix it. All that weird shit's it's in his history. It's locked in. You can't, as Nick Spencer proved, you can't undo it. No matter how hard you try, you just kind of live with it and keep going. That's all you got. That's all you got to do. That's all you can do. Adam says, it's funny you say that because Bart literally looked like Ultimate Peter Parker. Oh, from my Bart Allen comic? Yeah, he did. He looked like Ultimate Universe Peter Parker. Bart's death was so disheartening to read, especially when you learn that he was still a child in an adult's body. Yeah. That sucked. That whole thing sucked. Should have been good, but just wasn't. Oh no, I scrolled too much. Let me see. Where was I? Oh, there we go. Earth 1610. Legacy characters equals mistreated, abused, and forgotten. Want to play a little game? How many Supergirls are there? And how many of those Supergirls have been forgotten to time? Let's try another one. What's Donna Troy's origin? Last one. Most depressing one too. At least as far as I'm concerned right now. The current Wonder Girl. What's gonna happen to her? And not just 5 years. What's gonna happen to her in 1 year? She's got a major future state push. But let's see what she's up to in 2023, huh? Adam says, I have a hot take. Dick Grayson was never Batman. He was just Dick in the costume rather than having a dark aesthetic of what Batman was, let alone the drive to fight the war on crime like Bruce. Yeah, well, I also think that's the point, you know? I think what Morrison was kind of trying to do with the character, or not with the character, but like the legacy of Batman was say that Batman's been a lot of things over the years. When he started out, he was like this grim, dark, like stick up his ass urban commando who softened up after Dick Grayson came into his life and kind of took that like inner child that Bruce had like buried and like pulled him back to the surface, which is how we get like the silliness and zaniness of the Silver Age and all that. But then then Bruce as Batman starts to regress after Dick goes off to college and starts hanging out with the Teen Titans, and then he gets Jason, and then everything kind of goes wrong with Jason, and then eventually you get to like the 2000s, you know, like post Tower of Babel, where Bruce doesn't trust any of the superheroes because, you know, this post Tower of Babel, post Identity Crisis. And he's like, no, I'm gonna make robots to like monitor all the superheroes. And no, my robots turned out to be Terminators. Who would have thought? And he gets to like his lowest of low points, and then you know, he kind of has to go through this like ritual, like the Buddhist Throgal ritual, to kind of bring him back to being what he once was in like the 70s and 80s, or much rather the 60s and 70s, where he was like, hey, I'm Batman, you know, let's make this a party. I'm still Batman, but hey, I'm Batman. Yeah. You know? And then by putting Dick Grayson in the costume, you are just by default locking in that like 60s and like 70s kind of vibe, because Dick Grayson was the one who like brought Bruce Wayne to that point in his life in the first place. So I don't know, I really like the Dick Grayson Batman tenure. I wish it stuck around for a longer period of time. You know, but since the Justice League's gonna die in a dark crisis, maybe we'll see a return to Bat Dick. You know, I want Bat Dick to come back. I liked Bat Dick. A lot of people like Bat Dick. Yeah, Bat Dick was pretty good. Bat Dick Forever. Directed by the ghost of Joel Schumacher. Oh man. Damn, that just kind of made me think. Joel Schumacher, if he got a third Batman movie, he would have done like Batman Triumphant. That would have been really cool. I just wish we got more Joel Schumacher Batman movies. That's I don't know, that's just me. But Tevia's in the chat. Hey, what's up, Tevia? How you doing, bud? How's your day going? My day's going pretty good. I just had a class today. Yeah, so it was kind of fun and interesting. It's like one of my last classes that I have to take before graduation, so just crossing my fingers, hoping and praying. Y'all in the chat, just cross your fingers, pray for your boy. Give me all your, lend me your energy. Help me get through this semester so I can graduate. That's all I need. Because I'm trying to dip. Tristan says, I also read Infinite Frontier number 0, which was the beginning of the whole Infinite initiative, and it's pretty good. Are you going to read Dark Crisis? Because the covers made me want to read it and the premise. I'm probably gonna skip Dark Crisis just because I am event fatigued the hell out. I'm done with events. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Even if they're good, I just can't do it. Like, I had people telling me that, like, Death Metal was really good. I'm glad you liked it. I didn't read it. No. I haven't read the past, like, 4 or 5 Marvel events that have come out. And honestly, I don't feel like I'm missing anything. I don't. I'm just reading the self-contained stuff that I'm reading. If they call back to it, to like something that happened in an event, cool. But I'm burned. I am tired. Earth 1610. Post 2016 comic book fandom's greatest fears, sidekicks, legacy characters, and female distaff and counterparts of male heroes. Yeah, which is all very weird because like those characters existed before 2016. I've made videos about this already. I bring this point up 2 separate times in my videos about legacy characters and in my video about like politics. Legacy is not anything new to comics. Politics isn't anything new to comics, particularly left-leaning politics, because comics traditionally lean superhero comics have traditionally leaned left. So just these things aren't new to comics. But the problem isn't the politics and the legacies inherently. The problem is they just wrapped up in really bad stories. And that's the problem. Like the problem with the Tom Taylor Superman book isn't that you have Superman's gay bisexual son, Superman. He's bad. That's not the problem with the book. The problem is not John's sexual identity. The problem is not John trying to be a social crusader. The problem is that the book is bad. That's the problem. Like the problem with like that whole Ironheart status quo where like Riri Williams was like running around as Iron Man. Black teenage girl, genius, built her own Iron Man costume. Okay, cool premise. What's the problem? Problem's that it's not good. The problem is that the story itself was not good, and that Riri was not a well-written character. That's the problem. The problem isn't politics and legacy. The problem is just storytellers not telling good stories with these legacy characters, or communicating their political ideologies in a way that's like not terribly cringe. That's the real problem. Tevia, what about Spider-Man Far From Home? Oh, is this for what I was saying earlier? Yeah, no, just I'm just really soft on all that now. I'm actually thinking of doing a video talking about Moon Knight, in a little bit, like after I finish the stream, because I've seen people like from the Moon Knight fandom just kind of freaking out about the Marvel Cinematic Universe's interpretation of Mr. Knight. But I mean, it goes back to like conversation that I've had with like other people for like other adaptations that they didn't like. Like for example, when I was talking to like a bunch of Superman fans about the Zack Snyder take on Superman, and a lot of them were like, well, it just doesn't feel like Superman to me. It feels like an Elseworlds take on Superman. And I was like, because it is an Elseworlds take on Superman. Like, it's not... Zack Snyder's not writing Superman comics. He made a Superman movie in a completely separate continuity. So, by definition, it is an Elseworlds story. Same as the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is an Elseworlds story. That is not the comics universe. You know, Kevin Feige and John Watts are not writing Spider-Man comics. You know, they did not turn Spider-Man into, like, an Avengers fanboy who, like, you know, wants to... I have to ride Tony Stark's Iron Spider to get the Avengers' approval. They did that in a movie, which takes place in its own separate, distinct continuity. And that's fine. You know? That's their take on Spider-Man. Just like, you know, everything that everyone who's working on that Moon Knight show, that's their take on Moon Knight. You know, so I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with like adaptations. I've gotten to the point where I'm just own universe. That's its own universe. As long as they get the broad strokes down, well then you did decent work as an adaptation. And so far, Moon Knight seems to get the broad strokes of the character down. You know, Mark Spector, terrible person. Almost dies in the desert, makes a pact with an Egyptian god, becomes the fist of vengeance for Khonshu, the Egyptian god of the moon, and he also has like dissociative identity disorder and possibly schizophrenia. So broad strokes are down. You know, they got it. The whole thing with like Mark has powers and the suit's like a Venom symbiote, kind of, not really. And Stephen Grant being I'm a good little British boy. I'm British and I work a gift shop. I'm Stephen. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. You don't muck about, cause I'm Stephen with a V. Okay. It's not how I interpret Stephen Grant at all. It's not Stephen Grant in the comics at all, but it is the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of Moon Knight. It is the Marvel Cinematic Universe version of that character, so that's just how I'm going to engage with it. And it's cool. You know, that's just kind of how it is. Earth 1610. Comics, movies, shows, games, and merchandise have multiverses for characters, or for creators and exploiters to create their own versions over and over and over again. Yes, that is exactly correct. And I think if you want to tell a Superman story, but like just deep down you think that Superman should he should rape Lois Lane. Well, you know, if you have a narrative reason that's justifying that action, go for it. Just don't do it with the main Superman. Do it with your own weird version of Superman in the multiverse somewhere. Go do that. Or like, you know, what if Peter Parker was like a school shooter? Like he showed up in the Spider-Man costume, but like the webs were like acid, and like he just killed everybody. All right, cool, go for it, but do it over there in like your own miniseries. Don't do it with the main Spider-Man. Just do it over there, over there. I'm cool with you. I'm cool with people making those changes as long as like it's in another universe. And like if those changes don't like encroach too hard or too heavily on like the mainstream version of the character, or I say mainstream version of the character, I mean like the core foundational comic book version of the character. So aggressively relaxing. Batman Forever really is the best Batman movie from the 90s. Yeah, man, I think it is. I like it a lot. Tevia, any opinion on Young Justice Earth-16 universe? Because personally, in my opinion, I think that universe is the best DC universe because it keeps moving forward. I agree. I like it a lot. Well, I agree in the sense that I appreciate that it's a universe that just kind of keeps going and keeps moving forward. I don't know if I'd say it's like the best version of the DC universe or like my favorite, just because outside of the Young Justice crew, outside of like Wally, Dick, Artemis, and Calder, and like Roy and like all those characters. Outside of them, I don't know much about the DC universe aside from it's the quintessential version of those characters, but I don't know their histories. Like Superman's there, cool, but like what's his deal? Like I don't know his origins. I don't know anything about the guy. I just know that like he's Superman. I don't know anything about Bruce Greenwood's Batman beyond he's Batman. So just I like the idea behind the Young Justice universe. I just don't feel like I know enough about the rest of that world and those characters to like really feel comfortable in saying it's my favorite version of the DC universe. Tevia says Robert Pattinson's Batman was personally really great in live action. No, I agree. I like Robert Pattinson. I like Robert Pattinson's Batman a lot. I feel like the Bruce Wayne part of his character was missing. Which I know people say, well, in the sequels he's gonna develop it. My problem. Okay. My problem with the Batman, which is a movie that I love a lot, but like my problem with it is that at the end of the day, I just kind of feel like despite everything I love about it, it still just winds up feeling like the second half of Batman Begins and the first half of The Dark Knight smushed into one movie and then spray painted to look like Seven. Like, I hate feeling that way, but that's how I feel, man. I like it a lot, but just that really kind of irks me. But yeah, I do look forward to seeing what Matt Reeves does with the character in the future. I think that could be like potentially like really interesting and really cool. Supreme Omega. My one issue with Morrison's Bat Run is how he wrote Talia. Not a fan of his more villainous interpretation of her to the point she raped Bruce. I much prefer her more sympathetic Talia from the 70s and from the 70s through the 90s. Well, no, I see that complaint brought up a lot, and I validate it. I get it. Personally, I really like it because it's just like a personal thing. I've been in those situations, you know. In fact, I've been on both sides of those situations. I've both been Bruce and Talia. Not the rape part. I haven't raped anybody, but just oh, this stream is going swimmingly. But you know, like the idea behind what Morrison was going for with Talia is that when you love somebody, like really love somebody, and they're just kind of, you just see so much of what they could be, and they kind of reject that, and then by extension they reject you. That love turns to hatred real quickly. Not even quickly, just sometimes over time, you just kind of, all that love in your heart that you have for that person just kind of, it brings the worst out in you, and then you end up becoming the worst version of yourself because you love them, or much rather you love who they can be, or what you think they should be, which is just not healthy at all. But, you know, people, they become, like, weirdly obsessed. And I do appreciate that, like, Morrison was, like, playing with those ideas that love can turn to hate, especially, like, over time. And I really like it. I think that Morrison added a lot of nuance to Talia's character in that way. I gotta talk about Morrison's Batman run at some point. It's my favorite run on the character. I love it a lot. And I also love that Morrison does the thing that I was talking about earlier, where he doesn't just paint Batman as the stalwart hero. Like, he is deeply aware of, like, how kind of broken Bruce Wayne's psyche is. And despite being a good person, sometimes, maybe a lot of times, definitely all the times, he does not go about trying to do the right thing by doing very terrible things to get there. And, like, hurting people along the way. No, I really like Morrison's Batman. In fact, for me, it's like the last great Batman run. Tevia says, Batman Forever I thought was a mess. I can't take that from you. I get it. Josiah, hey, what's up, Josiah? How you doing? Josiah says, what's up, Beanie Boy? What's up, Josiah? How you living, fool? How you doing? How you be? This week, what comics did you read? Aggressively relaxing. There's a scene in Batman and Robin where our hero jumps off of a giant telescope and saves 3 scientists. That is absolutely incredible, and I absolutely agree. I also love Batman and Robin. Not as much as Batman Forever, but I still really enjoy Batman and Robin a great deal. Tevia says, any opinion on Justice League Dark Apocalypse War? Not really. You know, I think Jay Oliva, who worked very heavily with, like, Zack Snyder, just wanted to get those ideas that he worked with Zack Snyder out on, and they just kind of took all the stuff from the Nightmare timeline and just kind of incorporated that into what the animation department was doing with you know, the faux New 52 universe, and they just kind of made a Nightmare timeline DC universe New 52ified animated movie, and it was fine. It was alright. Yeah. Oh, no. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I scrolled too aggressively. Supreme Omega. Spidey's worst stories and moments is motivated by Marvel's fear of aging Pete and trying to regress him, while Spidey's best stories are all about growth and progress. Just look at the Master Planner trilogy. Yeah, definitely. But I think the problem with Spider-Man is that throughout the 60s, well into the 90s, those were creators that recognized what not just Spider-Man is, but like what the Marvel Universe is inherently. The Marvel Universe is not the DC Universe where like it's like a larger than life like myth and epic where, you know, these characters never age and change. You know, they just kind of stay the same forever. The Marvel Universe, particularly between like 1961 and like 2002, that's a world that like evolved. You know, like all those characters like grew and changed. Now, we're seeing a lot of characters not do that so much because a lot of the creators who grew up with these characters don't want them to evolve and change because they like them the way they were when they grew up with them. And that's not a problem that's like unique to Marvel. You see that a lot at DC too. In fact, I mean, hell, just look at, you know, half of the credits that belong to Jeff Johns. You know, that dude kind of, yeah. No hate on Jeff Johns, you know, and just no hate against like the editors behind Marvel for the past like 10, 15 years, particularly Spider-Man. It's just, it is what it is. It is how it is. You know, a lot of these people grew up wanting these characters to be how they were ideally, and by ideally I mean how they were when they were like 12 and 13, and that's how we're getting the stories we're getting now. You know, a lot of it is, how do we put the genie back in the bottle? How do we take this character back to the way they were in like 1973? It just kind of is how it is. Tevia says, shame Jason got killed. Well, you're about 35 years late to the party on that one, but yeah, it is a shame that he got killed. Earth 1610. Remember Joel Schumacher's Batman pitch to end his trilogy with all dead villains returning as illusions, with Harley Quinn as the Joker's daughter, and Scarecrow and possibly Mad Hatter and Robin become Nightwing? Yeah, I did hear about that for Batman Triumphant. That would have been really interesting. You know what's weird about Batman Triumphant? Everything that I've heard about it sounds like very drastically similar to what the Ben Affleck Batman was going to be. Because I think the Ben Affleck Batman movie was going to have Slade Wilson, you know, Deathstroke, trap Bruce in Arkham Asylum and have Bruce just kind of run through the gauntlet of his worst villains as they like show up and represent like the worst parts of Bruce and like how he sees himself. And from what I've heard about Batman Triumphant, and I guess like from what I've interpreted from what people have told me, that movie was going to be very similar, but you know, with the exception of Deathstroke trying to get revenge on Bruce for something. It's Harley Quinn trying to get revenge on Batman for the death of the Joker. I still think that whole story is really fascinating, and I also think it would have been really interesting to see like Nightwing becoming Robin, especially since it was teased so heavily in Batman and Robin. Yeah, no, I think that would have been really interesting and cool. Tevia says, what about Thor? He has an actual book. Oh, Thor has a book right now? Yeah, he does. Donny Cates is doing it. I thought it started out fine. I just kind of lost interest over time, though. Like, not that it's bad. I just, I just was more interested in reading some other stuff. Tevye says, technically we had Luke Cage series by Genndy Tarkovsky, the creator of Samurai Jack. Oh, we did. And I thought that was a really fun series. It's just it could have been something that come out for the 50th anniversary of Luke Cage, and it didn't. And it's very weird that like we got nothing for the 50th anniversary of Luke Cage. Just absolutely bizarre to me. Supreme Omega. Question. Do you feel John Byrne is worse than Miller? I'm assuming you mean Frank Miller here. Because Miller tried to apologize while Byrne defended pedophilia and mocked the idea of creators' rights. In Byrne's view, artists should be cogs in the machine. Well, yeah, the whole thing with the whole thing with Frank Miller is that I don't hate Frank Miller. Like, I don't. I have friends who do. And I have Muslim friends who hate Frank Miller and, like, will just never forgive him for the things he said about Islam and, a lot of, like, the inflammatory remarks he made during the press tour for Holy Terror and writing Holy Terror and drawing Holy Terror. Just, I get it. But I'm not Muslim, so I can't, I don't have that perspective of it where, like, oh, I'm just, like, eternally gonna be mad at him. But I understand why, like, people who are Muslim, like, just never forgive Frank Miller. I get it. At the same time, though, Miller has apologized. It seems like he's definitely, like, sobered up over the years. I think Frank Miller's fine. I'm still not a fan of a lot of his, like, modern era, like, writings. I get what he's going for. I get what he's trying to do. It's just not my thing personally. But John Byrne is... I still really love John Byrne as a creative. I think I like him as a storyteller, but just John, stop talking. That's just how I feel. John, stop talking. Every time you say something terrible. So just don't say things. Yeah. But as for, like, John Byrne's, like, opinions on, like, comics and how, like, creators should be, like, a cog in a machine, that really kind of depends on, like, what you're talking about. Like, if you're talking about, like, Marvel DC work, and, like, work with, like, licensed properties, well, then, yeah, you are a cog in a machine. I think that's fine. I think that's fair. I think it is what it is. But when it comes to, like, creator-owned stuff, like, like the Image stuff and, like, a lot of the Dark Horse stuff, that's not licensed IP. Then, yeah, no, I think creators should have, like, full control, like, over their intellectual property. I'm not sure if that's how John Byrne feels about that or not. Forgive me, I'm ignorant. I haven't seen John Byrne talk about the creators' rights issues. So I'll have to look into that. But I mean, if that's what he believes, then I don't see a problem with it. Because, I mean, again, corporate comics are corporate comics. Like, you don't know those characters, you don't know those intellectual properties. A nameless, faceless corporation does. So if they, like, want to hire you for a book to, like, revitalize the X-Men and fix that brand and then kick you off after you've just barely reached the finish line for Act 1 of your big magnum opus. Sure, they can do that. You know, it sucks, but it'd be like that. Tevia says, technically, the editorial staff need a reality check and let Peter Parker and Mary Jane grow up and mature and become actual parents to their daughter Mayday Parker Spider-Girl in the main universe. I mean, that'd be interesting. We'd never see that because Spider-Man is never going to have a kid in the main universe. I say that, but there was a time when we said the same thing about Superman, and now John Kent exists. And not only exists, is, you know, being marketed as being Clark Kent's usurper. So, fuck do I know? Maybe in 10 years, Peter Parker is going to be a dad. And Spider-Girl is going to be the one to take his place. I don't know. I don't know. Tevia says, what about Power Girl? What about Power Girl? No, I'm kidding. I like Power Girl. Power Girl's pretty... I like her costume. I think the history and, like, continuity behind Power Girl is frustrating. Okay. I'll just throw this out there for Power Girl. I don't know why why DC feels the need to, like, do this overly complicated, like, no, like, she's Supergirl, but from an alternate dimension that doesn't exist anymore. She's just kind of stranded here, but, like, she's what Supergirl's gonna be because Supergirl's gonna be Power Girl, but, like, Supergirl's never actually gonna be Power Girl because we have to eternally keep Kara Danvers or Kara Zor-El or whatever the fuck permanently at, like, 16, so, no, I don't like that. I think the best way to do Power Girl is to just let Supergirl grow up and be Power Girl. That's what I think. Instead of doing all this, like, multiverse mumbo jumbo bullshit, just let Supergirl grow up and be Power Girl. I think that would make everything way simpler. Tevia says, nobody cares about Yara Flor. No, I care about Yara Flor. I think she's a really fun, interesting new character, but you represent the majority opinion, and nobody cares about Yara Flor, and that's sad. Earth 1610. What if Marvel and DC had an alternate reality where only the good stories happened? I'm not gonna get into that. Tevia, any opinion on Dark Crisis focusing on legacy characters? Too little, too late. I don't care. Any trust that I have in DC approaching their legacy characters with, like, any sense of, like, nuance and grace is just completely it's eradicated. All my good faith with them is just kind of gone, at least in that respect. Earth 1610. Bat-Dick was huge. Yes, it was. Well, I don't know. I'd say it's marginally above average, but maybe not huge. Because he's only like 6'3", right? No, not 6'3". He's like 5'11". Yeah, he's not so much above, you know, the average male height. You know, he's just kind of, you know, above it, you know, but he's not like Bruce. You know, Bruce is huge. Dick is above average. In terms of height. Tevia. Why can't we have Marvel and DC take notes from My Hero Academia universe, because personally that world is technically a great superhero world that has characters grow up and mature and move forward. Well, that's because in manga, everyone kind of operates on that arc system where characters go through their arc and then the story's over. And Marvel and DC will never allow that to happen because they have to like milk those characters. Why did I do that? They have to like milk those characters for all the. Oh, that's even worse. They have to milk those characters for all they're worth. And that's why you're never gonna see like Marvel and DC, pull from the inspiration of manga. Supreme Omega. It's a shame that the 616 Spidey comics will never return to the level of consistency and dynamic continuity with the pre-Clone Saga days, where the characters grew and changed and death meant death. I couldn't have said it better. That I agree, 100%. It's really sad. Tevia, I personally wish we had 616 Spider-Man actually grow and mature and have him move forward and stop having these writers making terrible ideas for Peter Parker Spider-Man. Yeah. But again, just every run for the past, 25 years is just built upon this idea of how do we fix what the previous creative team broke. And I think when you kind of run into that system, over time, it just kind of gets to the point where it just looks like the worst version of itself, and you get Kindred. And I say that as somebody who really likes Nick Spencer's run on Amazing Spider-Man, but you're just kind of looking at it for what it is, Sorry about that. Any opinion on Shadow War? Because personally, I thought that crossover has been really awesome and tons of fun. I'm not reading it. It's another big event, and I'm event fatigued the hell out. So no, taking a step back. Supreme Omega. Also, one last Spidey question. Have you read the Spider-Girl comics by Tom DeFalco and thoughts on Mayday Parker? I have read the Spider-Girl comics by Tom DeFalco, and I really like them. I think they're really great. I don't really have anything nuanced or interesting to add to that. I think they're really fun, next generation styled superhero comics. And Mayday is probably my favorite legacy character. Or not my favorite legacy character. One of my favorite legacy characters within Marvel. Because I think there's a lot of really cool legacy characters. Tevia, I love Mayday Parker Spider-Girl. She is really awesome and tons of fun. Yep, I agree. Amara Pender says, what is your favorite Batsuit in comics? I like the Troika suit a lot. The Troika outfit, the one that Bruce Wayne puts on after he made his return, post, I want to say Knight's Quest. It's basically the Denny O'Neil, Jose Luis Garcia Lopez bat suit, but instead of it being gray and blue, it's just straight black with the yellow oval and the yellow utility belt. I think that's really cool. I think it's a great look for Batman. I like it a lot. But I also like the Rebirth suit, and I wish it stuck around. I quite enjoyed that costume. I thought Greg Capullo really outdid himself when he designed that bat suit. Yeah. So that's also one of my big favorites. But I also just love seeing purple in the Batsuit, period. I think it looks really good. Probably why I like the the Golden Age Batsuit so much because it's the purple gloves, even though he only has them in like one issue. Because after that, I'm not sure if you guys have read the Golden Age Batman comics. The gloves just kind of either go from being blue or not there. Until like, I think by issue, I think when Batman, no, but this is before Batman gets his own book. I think it might be like the issue before Robin's introduced. Batman is given these like pirate gloves. And it's kind of interesting, like, reading the Golden Age Batman comics, because you watch the suit, like, evolve over time until eventually it gets to something that, like, we traditionally associate with Batman. I think that's really fascinating. Yeah. But yeah, no, to answer your question, Amar, I really like the Troika suit and the Rebirth suits. Earth 1610. Scott Snyder's Death Metal, a Morrison fan's convoluted legacy. I'll raise you one better. Death Metal is Grant Morrison's convoluted legacy. Yeah. Any opinion on War for Earth 3? Nope, I'm not reading it. I see you think it's disappointing, and that's sad, and I feel bad for you, man. But I'm not reading it. Supreme Omega. About Riri Williams. She became a better character after she was far, 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 far away from Bendis. Check out Jim Zub's Champions Run and Eve Ewing's Ironheart miniseries. Zub taught high school, and Ewing is a woman of color. Okay, cool. I'll check it out. Just the Bendis stuff just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth, and I was like, dude, Natasha Irons exists. The template is there. How do you fuck this up that badly? Just, I don't know. Tevi says Moon Knight is super obscure anyway. Oh yeah, we were talking about when I was that tirade I was going on about adaptations. Yeah. Oh shit. Scroll down way too far. There we go. Supreme Omega. Miss Marvel and Ava crossover question. What would happen if Shinji met Kamala and Rey met Nakia and Asuka met Zoe? What could go wrong? Would they be friends? I think Shinji would think Kamala's cute, but not have the guts to, like, tell her. And I think Kamala would think Shinji is weird and kind of creepy. I don't think Rey would have any opinion on Nakia, and I think the same goes for Nakia and Rey. I think they'd just be wildly indifferent towards each other. What would happen if Asuka met Zoe? I think they might. It's weird. That can go either way. They would either get along swimmingly, or they're just so much alike that they would butt heads. Yeah, that's how that would go down. In fact, I'm going to go back to the question that you asked me last week, about what if Peter met Shinji, because I'm not totally satisfied with my answer there. So okay. First of all, if we're gonna like contrive, Spider-Man meeting anybody from Evangelion, you have to like change the world a little bit. So, I guess in this like weird amalgamated universe that like the Black Moon, instead of it being buried beneath Japan. It's buried beneath, like Queens or something. And Nerve headquarters is in New York instead of, Japan. Which means that, like, Nerve is probably, like, doing joint ventures with S.H.I.E.L.D. and, Gendo is kind of, like, butting heads with, like, Tony Stark and Norman Osborn and Hank Pym and, like, all those, like, men of industry and whatnot. But just in regards to Spider-Man and, like, the Evangelion kids, what were they called again? Were they called, like, the Impact kids? The Impact children? Children of Impact? I don't remember. But I feel like, again, they all went to the same school, Midtown High. And again, just assuming that we're talking about, like, Ditko era high school Peter Parker. I think Peter would know of Shinji, just like I think Shinji would know of Peter. But Peter would look at Shinji with this, like, I don't know, he just kind of look at him and go like, wow, that's sad. Wow, your mom's dead? Oh, man, that's a real shame. Your dad doesn't like you? Well, that's sucks to be you, pal. Anyway, my life is so hard. Back to being the main character of my own drama. Oh, no. Girls don't like me, despite the fact that they keep asking me out on dates and I keep blowing them off to be Spider-Man, but girls don't like me. Why is Flash Thompson so mean to me, even though I, like, always say terrible things to his face in front of his friends? And he's just trying to, like, rag me like he would anybody else, but, like, the world's so mean to me, I think Peter would come off like a drama queen to Shinji, who would just be, like, endlessly puzzled by Peter. Just, like, Shinji would just look at Peter like, what? Why are you like this? And I don't think, unprompted Shinji would say anything to Peter, but, say they're in a situation where they, like, have to work on, like, an assignment with one another. I could see Shinji, like, posing the question, like, hey, why do you hang out with, like, Flash Thompson and Sally Averill and, like, all those other kids if you don't like them? It seems like you're just kind of the architect of your own pain here. I don't think Shinji would have the balls to say that in the exact words, but that'd be the sentiment. And Peter would definitely say something, like, cruel and biting to Shinji. Which then Shinji would internalize and then board the MTA, or whatever the hell New York's transit system is called, and just kind of, like, ride around the train because that's what Shinji's best at, while feeling sorry for himself. So yeah, that's how Peter and Shinji would interact in the Evangelion universe. And I hope that is a better answer for your question from last week. Yeah, no. That was just something I was, like, thinking about this whole week. Yeah. Tavia says, question. If you were able to do a redo of Civil War II or any bad event, how would you redo any of those events and make them better? Well, I'll go back to Civil War, the original one, and make that Ultimates 3. Instead of, having that be, the thing that breaks the main Marvel Universe, just have that be the thing that breaks the Ultimate Marvel Universe. That's what Civil War should have been. It should have been Ultimates 3. But yeah, let me think. Any other, like, terrible events? Um, because I don't know what you would do with Civil War 2. In fact, I think Civil War having a sequel inherently is just kind of like, what? Why? Yeah, no, nothing's coming to me right now. Let's see. Earth 1610, Young Justice, time skip overload. I don't know anything about the Mentors' histories of that universe beyond Young Justice crew. LOL. Same here, man, and that's why I struggle saying that Young Justice, that universe is like the best version of the DC universe. Because I just don't know. I don't know enough about those characters. And Tubby talks about the tie-in comics, but like those are only for like the team, the Titans, if you will. It doesn't focus on any other characters. Josiah Haynes, what do you think of Snyder's run on Batman? I see the appeal that it has. I understand the mass market appeal that run has garnered. Personally, not my thing. I love Zero Year, but that's about it. Not my thing personally, but I get the appeal. Supreme Omega, thoughts on Morrison's philosophy on superhero comics, where they feel everything is canon. Every good and bad story should be canon. I completely agree. I think everything should be canon. If he told a story, well, then that story should matter. Those are my opinions on that, at least. Tevia says, any opinion on DC doing a Rebirth animated movie universe? Well, I mean, that's kind of what the new universe is, isn't it? Like, isn't that the current DC animated universe? It's just, we rebirthed it, I don't know. Tevia, why is Marvel Comics so afraid of having their characters move forward with their universe? I don't know, and that's very weird because that's what the Marvel Universe originally was and prospered through for like 35 years. And then recently they just kind of stopped doing that. I don't get it, but it's what it is. Let's see. Do you believe that Marvel and DC need a reality check, or the comic book industry needs a massive wake up call? I think the comic book industry is bound for a wake up call any minute now. Any minute now. I'm not sure if you guys follow the history of like manga and whatnot, but what we're seeing happen in the comics industry now is what the manga industry endured in like the late 90s and early 2000s, and they had a rude awakening, and it shocked them into gear, and that's why manga's kind of like prospering now, because a lot of those people working in that industry said, "Fuck it, let's salvage from the ship what we can, and let's let's make sure to build a better ship, a stronger ship, and let's not make the same mistakes that led us to absolute ruin in the first place." I think the comics industry is definitely gearing up for one of those. Earth 1610, Snyder's Batman, the war veteran complex. I can kind of see that. Josiah Haynes says, did you like Jason Aaron's Thor? What's your favorite Jason Aaron comic? Jason Aaron's Thor is fine. I think it's fine. In the same way that I feel like Scott Snyder's Batman is just the Michael Bay version of Grant Morrison's Batman. I feel like Jason Aaron's Thor is like the Michael Bay version of... Well, no. It's not the Michael Bay version of Dan Jurgens' run on Thor. It's more like... I'm trying to find like an app comparison. Which I can't right now. But, yeah, no, it's basically just, you know, a bigger, you know, more widely known version of what Dan Jurgens was doing with the character in, like, the 90s. It's fine, but I've already read it. Supreme Omega. Are you surprised the One More Day was inspired by a Superman 2000 pitch where writers wanted to erase Clark and Lois's marriage by Mick Spitalik due to the secret identity being outed by Lex Luthor? I'm not surprised by that, because a lot of the people who were working at DC Comics in the 2000s just went to Marvel and did the same thing with Spider-Man, and I'm not surprised by it. Yeah, no. Although that does make me very nervous for the future of Superman, seeing as how Superman is publicly outed now. And I don't know. Just, that was a bad call. That was a really bad call. And I'm not going to blame Bendis for that. You know, writers are writers. Writers come up with ideas all the time. That was the editor's fault. The editor allowing Bendis to do that. I don't know who you are, but you take the L. That's an L right there. Any opinion on Tamasi's excellent run on Superman, and what's your favorite Tamasi comic? Yeah, I like the Tamasi run on Superman quite a bit. It's not my favorite, but I like it a lot, and I get why people see it as their favorite. My favorite Tamasi comic, though, I still really like Batman and Robin. Under the New 52, I thought that's a really fun series. Earth 1610. John Byrne's internet blog equals angry fanboy vibe. I see that, and that's where I'm gonna leave that at. I see Nibizuki. Hey, what's up, I see Nibizuki? How you doing? I see Nibizuki says I would love to see a D&D comic happen. I think Critical Role would definitely be your thing. Like Vox Machina. Yeah, I think you might be into that. If you haven't checked it out already. Also, not Lumberjanes. God damn it. Rat Queens. Rat Queens might be exactly up your alley. So if you haven't checked out those comics, I highly recommend getting those. Because that might be exactly what you're looking for right now. Earth 1610. Creators and exploiters can get rich and famous on licensed corporate products. Not... Well, yes, they can. It's just that it rarely ever happens. Which is why a lot of creators just kind of shuffle on to doing their own creator-owned work. Which I commend and I think is probably definitely the more financially wise decision to make. Tell you, before I go, any opinion on Blade getting a daughter in the main universe? I don't care. I don't care. Yeah, no. John Rapp 11. Hey, what's up, John? How you doing? Some folks on Twitter will complain endlessly about Marvel and DC comics. They hate them, but they keep buying them. Potential audience would rather buy comics they hate than comics that indies make. Yeah, and I think a large part of that is just comfortability. You know, it's that whole situation where people would rather be miserable with the devil they know than dare to engage with something unfamiliar. I don't know. I disagree with it, but I get it. I definitely get it. I see Nibizuki. I used to think Power Girl was just Supergirl with Big Booba. Well, she kind of is just Supergirl with Big Booba. Kind of. You're not wrong. She is. I just kind of wish DC would cut out the middleman with all this like multiverse crap and just say that Supergirl is. Just have Kara just grow up and be Power Girl. Have Kara abandon the Supergirl mantle and just have her be Power Girl. That's. I think that would make life way simpler. But what do I know? Supreme Omega. I wish we had Cameron's Spidey film. Me too. If you guys see my video, you know it's, in my opinion, it's the best Spider-Man film that never got made. But as Supreme Omega goes on, they say because from what I read, that could have been a really cool mixture of the 60s Lee and Ditko run with the tone of the late 80s and early 90s Michelini and DiMatteo stories. 100% agree. Sorry about that. But I 100% agree. And it's a real shame that we just never got that movie. I think it could have been like genre defining, like in the way that we talk about like the Dark Knight being genre defining, and like Bryan Singer's X-Men being genre defining. I think James Cameron's Spider-Man could have been genre defining. Supreme Omega, in contrast to U.S. superhero comics. Mainstream UK comics like Judge Dredd are allowed to age mostly in real time. Thoughts on that? I like that idea a lot. You know, it's why I really like a lot of the British Vertigo stuff. So I really like Hellblazer. You know, John Constantine was allowed to age. You know, we see him go from being a 35-year-old bitter man to being a 65-year-old bitter man. I really like seeing characters age in real time. Tavia says, I like Nick Spencer's Spider-Man run. Me too. Amar Pinder, have you been reading Daredevil or Moon Knight? I'm reading Daredevil in trade. I'm keeping up with that in trade, and I'm keeping up with the current Moon Knight series in trade. I just never finished reading the Bemis run, so I'm trying to collect all those in trade and like read those, and then I'm gonna read the current Moon Knight series. Let's see. Tevye says, final question, any opinion on Jeremy Adams' Flash book? Because personally, I love that series. It gives me everything that I've ever wanted, especially Wally West and his family going on fun adventures. I'm glad you're reading it, man. I'm just not reading it because comics are expensive, and the first couple issues just didn't feel like they warranted a $4 price tag. You know, comics are too expensive for that. But I'm sure it's really fun and comfy, you know, and I think that's exactly what the Flash fan base needs right now. Supreme Omega, Would you like for Kamala to meet the previous female Captain Marvels like Monica and Phyla Vell? Because Monica is a woman of color and Phyla is a lesbian. And, well, Kamala's two besties are girls of color and lesbians. I never put that together. You got the mind of an editor, good sir. Mind of an editor. That would be a really good idea. I think that would be really interesting. I seen a Bazooki. Sorry. The dreaded bad circuitry of my ceiling fan is struck yet again. It's like just a recurring thing on here. Hasn't happened in a while though, so you know it was long overdue. But I seen a Bazooki says, "Oh, you're getting annoyed by a redhead? Welcome to the club." I feel like that can apply to a lot of things. Not just in this stream. But was that what I was saying earlier with like the Evangelion connection with Spider-Man and Shinji? I don't know. But kind of reminds me of that like out of context like Wolverine and Spider-Man panels. Well, Wolverine's like, you know who makes the best girlfriends? Redheads. And they just like fist bump. Yeah. Supreme Omega says, also on Zoe and Asuka, what would happen if Zoe got a crush on Asuka? She would not. I don't think she would. But how would Asuka react if she found out that Zoe is attracted to her? I think Asuka would like lash out and say something like terrible and like homophobic, and like it would come from like a place of like being deeply insecure, because that's Asuka's whole deal. Tevia, oh I know, there's one original sin that could get a redo. Oh, original sin, yeah. Earth 1610, 2000s comics. Let's salvage this ship. And goes on to say 2000s comics. For real, bro. Let's salvage the industry. Yeah. Tevia says, I blame Bendis for outing Superman because that was a terrible idea because we did it before and that was terrible with the New 52 Superman, which failed. Yeah, I agree, and I don't like the idea of having Superman being outed. I just don't like it. Earth 1610 says DC fans repetition quote OMG New 52 bad. Yeah, I mean, okay. I mean, I said this in like the last week's stream, but I don't hate the New 52. At the very least, I don't hate the idea behind the New 52. I think the idea to reboot the universe was totally sound. And I remember as those comics were coming out in like 2009 or 2010 or whatever, that like post Final Crisis era. A lot of DC comics were like really bad, you know. I remember Cry for Justice. I remember that weird thing where they tried to have like Freddy be the new Captain Marvel, and Teen Titans was doing weird. It was just not good. It just was not good. The only thing that I was really genuinely enjoying in that like post Final Crisis era for DC was Batman, because Grant Morrison just kind of said, "Screw it, we're gonna have Dick Grayson be Batman, and it's gonna be great." But that's it. That's like the only thing I can really think of that was like great for DC post Final Crisis. I just thought everything else was terrible. Yeah, man. So I was down with the New 52. Um, and even then, for as inconsistent and horribly mismanaged as the New 52 was, there were a lot of good books in that series. That line had a lot of great comics in it. Brian Azzarello and Cliff Chiang's Wonder Woman is one of the GOATs for me as far as I'm concerned. Not just among the New 52 line, but just in general. That's one of my favorite comic book runs. I also really like the Supergirl series by the New 52, which I think the writers of that series are the same writers who did Blade Runner 2049, which is interesting. And look, we got another Blink. But I also really liked Superman Unchained. I also really enjoyed the Grant Morrison and Rags Morales Superman series. Like that was Action Comics. I thought that was great. I also really enjoyed Batman Incorporated. That was still Morrison, but still I love Batman Incorporated. Just there's a lot of good stuff that came out of the New 52. So I just don't immediately feel like writing it off, because a lot of cool stuff came out of it. Granted, I don't think as time went on, the New 52 was great. In fact, I think as time went on, that whole line just kind of all of the weird choices just got even weirder. All the bad choices just got even way, way, way badder and way worse. But I don't know. There's still cool stuff in the New 52. I also like the idea to like kind of streamline certain characters and just kind of marry a lot of pre-crisis and post-crisis ideas together. There's a lot of stuff in the New 52 that I really like and appreciate. It's just I don't think the execution overall was all that great. And at the end of the day, I do still think that like the Earth 1 line should have been more of like the template for what the New 52 should have been. Just like a clean cut reboot. But yeah, I don't know. I see Nibizuki. Favorite Tomb Raider game? Rise of the Tomb Raider. That's my favorite one. I love Rise of the Tomb Raider. I feel like that's a normie answer, but I like it a lot. It's my favorite one. And I see Nibizuki goes on to say, wait, that was related to the Evangelion crossover. Oh, right, nice. Earth 1610, New 52 was a good idea with bad execution at times, but I liked it. Same here. Intevia says, shame the New 52 ruined the Teen Titans. I think the Teen Titans were ruined long before the New 52. If I'm gonna be honest. Supreme Omega. Have you read Greg Pak's New 52 Action Comics run? In my view, it's a natural successor to Morrison's New 52 Action Comics run. I have it right here. I like it a lot. I don't like so much the stuff that like leads into like Superman Truth and all that, but like outside of that, I really like Greg Pak's run on Action Comics. I think Under the Skin's really fun. I think that's a really cool horror story. And I like seeing Superman like being thrown into like unprecedented like situations. Really interesting. And I think Greg Pak is like the ideal modern Superman writer. Because I like a lot of his Superman stuff. Tevye Smoke, New 52 Superboy, and New 52 Slash Wax, also terrible. I don't know what Slash Wax is, but I'll take your word for it. Yeah, I can't comment on something I'm not hip to. Flash. Well, I don't know. I don't think New 52 Flash was terrible. Or I don't think it was any worse than what we were getting after Barry Allen came back already. So I thought it was fine. And Tevye goes on to say, the New 52 Superboy was also terrible. I read some of that. I thought it was cringy, and I just didn't. I didn't fuck with it. And that was me at like the proper age I think that DC was shooting for with that book. I was like 13 or 14. I was the target demographic. I just didn't vibe with it. Thought it was pretty bad. And I'm convinced if I go back to it, I'll feel the same way. Earth 1610. Marvel post Siege felt like DC post Final Crisis and Blackest Night, where stuff slowed down and got really mediocre, with its back to status quo mandate for pre-New 52. That's like 2010, 2011, and pre-Marvel Now, that's like 2010, 2012. I agree, and that's just kind of, it's why largely those universes don't elicit a lot of like vigorous excitement anymore. It's just kind of, that's DC universe is doing stuff, and they're doing stuff in the Marvel universe. But like I'm more picky about what I read from those companies now. And final question, or final comment that I'll react to, because I do have to hop off for here and get some of my homework for my morning class, which is at 9 in the morning, done. So that's gonna be fun. But yeah, final question. DC Rebirth felt like false promises as it went along. Sorry, I'm gonna read that again. DC Rebirth felt like false promises as it went along. The pre-New 52 universe never really came back, especially after Tom King's Crisis event. Yeah, and that's kind of the weird thing, it's Rebirth was never bringing back the old universe. It was just kind of bringing elements from the old universe into the New 52. And that's just kind of what it was. Although it was an interesting kind of lead into all the stuff that like Scott Snyder was doing with metal, and how that leads into like death metal and like the Anti-Crisis and the DC universe becoming the linear verse where like everything exists. So I think the groundwork was kind of laid for that. I thought that was like really interesting. Yeah, no, that's about it. That's all I got. Yeah, guys, no. Really fun talking with y'all. Again, sorry I got to this so late, but I was not feeling good last night, and I would not have made a fun host at all. Yeah, I'm glad I got to do this tonight, and I'm glad I got to talk with y'all and touch base. And hopefully I'll see y'all again next week. Updates on future video stuff. My script for my Ultimates 2 retrospective is done. I'm so excited. All I have to do now is record it and edit it, and I say that like it's gonna be like an easy thing to do, but no, I'm excited. I'm very excited to finally have like some real headway on that, so I can like kind of complete my Ultimate retrospective, and also something I'm probably gonna like finish up is the Arkham Knight Let's Play. Even though the Batman's already come and gone now, but I yeah, I don't see a reason why I shouldn't finish the Arkham Knight game series, and also finish up some of those like side quests from Arkham City and Arkham. Well, I almost said Arkham Asylum, but I don't think Arkham Asylum had a lot of side quests. So really, just Arkham City and Arkham Knight. If you guys want me to, so yeah, no, totally. But yeah, guys, that's what's on the docket. Hopefully this week. Or what I'm gonna start trying to work on this week. And yeah, as always, it's a pleasure. Until next time. Adios, nachos. Adios.